Hi, my name is Paula Nadelstern, and I'd like to introduce my new C&T book, Fabricadabra, Simple Quilts, Complex Fabric. For the past 30 years, I've been working on a series of complex kaleidoscopic quilts. What I've learned from working in a series is that the questions you ask yourself get more and more complex while the answers get simpler. This book is the result of one of those questions. What if I took the complex designs and pared them down to simple shapes, and then filled the shapes with the charismatic, beautiful fabric that I love so much? In other words, create simple quilts that are easy to piece, but look dramatic and complex. The book has a great gallery of 39 quilts made by me and my friends, and some of the quilts actually have a large detail, which I love because you can really see the complexity of the fabric and yet see that there are just simple straight lines piecing most of it together. And it also has a construction guide, a layout that shows you the simplicity of the construction. So today I'd like to show you how I use some of the techniques, one of the techniques that I've developed, how I use the template plastic, and I'd also like to talk a little bit about the design strategy that I use so much that I believe is my signature style. The book also talks a lot about fabric, because as a fabric designer and a person who loves to collect fabric, I have a lot to say. So first I'm going to show you how I make a template. And I use this product that I've done with C&T called VisiGrid. It's a great product because it comes 4 sheets in a package, and this template plastic accepts ink on both sides equally well. I use a black permanent pen. This is my favorite, the Faber-Castell, and it glides on the fabric. And if you're working in a not very good light, there isn't a glare, which is really, really useful. It also has a bold inch line with 8 to the inch grids between it, which is really useful because you can then use the template plastic as a ruler if you need to. And also, it's always very well made, meaning that the margins are equal and have an extra 1/4 of an inch on both sides so that you can use that and be really frugal and work all the way out to the ends of the template plastic. So today I'm going to actually take a piece of the template plastic, my black permanent pen, and I'm going to make a 4-inch square. And I can do that just by using the ruler, the graph paper as a ruler. I use a really thin ruler. And if I place this here, what I've done on the graph paper is I've actually marked the vertical and horizontal axes so that your eye can see what I'm trying to do. I'm lining up the bold line of the template plastic with that so that in the very middle of my template plastic I've created a really functional template that will show me exactly where the center is, and then I can place that on the fabric just exactly so. So when I place this like this, I'm going to take the black permanent pen and the thin ruler, and I'm marking the template on all 4 sides. I've left 1/4 inch around for seam allowance, and when I finish with that, it's going to look like this. The next step is going to be to actually add a 1/4 inch seam allowance, and this is important because I don't want to make a template that's too big. I might need to use this to cut multiple patches, 18, 16, whatever, so I don't want it bigger. So when I add the seam allowance, I'm not going to use a thick rotary cutting ruler, which is great for its task, because I won't be able to get my pen close enough to it to really be exact. So I use these thin rulers. I'm going to find the 1/4 inch marking on that and just add 1/4 inch on all 4 sides. So when I'm finished with that, it's going to look like this. Then I cut it out with my paper scissors, and your paper scissor should not be the little scissor that your little 4-year-old discarded because it was too small for them, and it shouldn't be the one that's not good enough to cut a chicken from the kitchen. It should be a good paper scissors. And when I've cut that out, it's going to look like this. So now I have a 4-inch square with the seam allowance marked and the sewing line showing. What I've done for the audience is I've marked the center axis here so that you can see what I'm going to aim for. I'm using a piece of bilaterally symmetrical fabric. That just means that, like the diagram here, there's a line down the center of the motif, an implied line, and what happens to the left mirror images to the right. And I can create really beautiful effects with this. There's a lot written about it in the book about how to use bilaterally symmetrical fabric. And so I'm going to take this template place it on the motif that I want. I move it around, I am auditioning lots of different elements, and the template is showing me what's going to be in the design and what will be in the seam allowance. But when I've picked what I like, what I do is I mark with the black permanent pen clues from the fabric onto the template. And I mark a lot of them because I might have to find this fabric another 6 or 10 or 18 times. And I'm going to mark all the way out to the seam allowances because that's really where matching takes place, all the way out into the seam allowances. So I'm going out here and I'm marking a lot of the motifs that I can recognize so that eventually my template is going to look like this. Then I place the template on the fabric, and with a silver gel pen I'm going to mark around the fabric. The silver gel pen is just great for fabrics that have dark backgrounds. And I mark around it, and then I'm going to cut it out with a good scissor. I like this Karen K. Buckley scissor very much. If you're a rotary cutting person, then feel free to cut it however you like. And eventually I end up with one of these patches. So here are 2 more fabrics that I call Prima Donnas. These are fabrics that you're going to want to fussy cut. Although in the book I don't only use those fabrics. I just wanted to give you some examples of them since I know that not everybody is familiar with them. So here we have fabric A and fabric B, and I've made a 4-inch template. I've put it on the fabric and found the motif that I want to use, and I've traced clues from the fabric onto the template. And here's fabric B, and the same thing here is my template. So now I'm going to show you how this would look in a traditional trip around the world. It's the beginning of my next trip around the world, and although there is a seam there, your eye does not see it. There's a seamless connection, and the connection between this patch number 2 and the first one, and your eye then begins to see it grow like that, and now I'm curious to audition and see what I'll put in the 3rd position. Here's another example. Here are the 2 fabrics that I'm going to use, and I've made 4-inch templates. Put the 4-inch template on top of the fabric, and then mark the clues once again with a permanent marker, marked around it with the silver pen, the silver gel pen. Cut patch 1, cut patch 2, and when they're sewn together, it's going to look like this. I like this a lot because you're really seeing the center of that mandala pop out, and you get just a little bit of the orange that's frilly and moving the eye around in a circular way. And my last example uses a lot of purple, but it introduces orange. I always want to use as much color as I possibly can. Even if I'm using blues or the same color group, I still want to pop in something else. That's what I've learned from working in the Kaleidoscope so much, is that you have to have some extra color in there so it really feels vibrant, and that brings the eye around, and it doesn't feel contrived, because a Kaleidoscope is not contrived. So fabrics 1 and 2, my templates, my patches, and here is what this will look like when they're the beginning of a trip around the world quilt. Thank you very much. I hope you enjoy the book.